Hello and welcome to the National League Rugby Preview Show, round 24's edition, powered by Talking Rugby Union. So here we go then. We are in the final month of the season and it feels like this campaign has flashed before our eyes, but we're at the stage where titles now need to be decided and relegation scraps now need to be resolved. So why not join us on the journey as the National League Rugby season reaches another exciting climax? And in the meantime, why not do us a favour as well and like this video, like the National League Rugby Preview Show, subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is absolutely free to do. Give us a follow on social media as well. And just in general, get involved in National League Rugby because it is the best time in the season to do so, whether that is sharing something on our social media pages, whether it's watching the show, or whether it's you heading down to your local National League Rugby club this weekend. It all helps to boost the popularity of National 1 and National 2, and that support is so invaluable to our leagues, and we have appreciated all the support we've seen across the country throughout the 2024-25 season, and we hope that continues in what remains of this campaign. Before we get into round 24 show, a big thanks to Hull, Guernsey Raiders and Exeter University, who all appeared on round 23's edition of the National League Rugby Preview Show a couple of weeks ago. Great to have all three of those clubs on, and it was really cool actually to see Exeter University produce a really nice Instagram post about their appearance on the National League Rugby Preview Show. So many thanks to them for their support on that, and of course for Guernsey and Hull as well. But let's dive into round 24 show, and as we said, there is not long to go now in the National League Rugby season, with 3 games remaining, and there is plenty on the line for plenty of clubs, not least for National 2 North's Harrogate, who are one of our feature clubs this week on the National League Rugby Preview Show. The Yorkshire outfit are involved in what is becoming a very intense relegation scrap in National 2 North. They sit second from bottom at the moment, and they host bottom of the table Hull on Saturday afternoon. So we'll be hearing from Harrogate a little bit later on in the show. We're also with Henley Hawks this week in National 2 East. Now, the Hawks sit mid-table in this division, but they do welcome league leaders Tunbridge Julians to Dryleys in round 24. So we'll be hearing from Henley boss Luke Allen about that challenge this weekend. And we're also in National 2 West with Luctonians, who, like Henley Hawks, sit mid-table in their division, but they are looking to end the campaign strongly over the remaining games in April. So we'll be hearing from Luctonians around that, but we will also be focusing on probably the biggest game, or arguably the biggest game of the weekend across National League Rugby, and it comes in National 2 West with a titled showdown as Clifton host Camborne at Station Road. Second place Clifton are just 1 point behind league leaders Camborne. So it's going to be an absolutely blockbuster clash at Station Road in Bristol on Saturday afternoon. So we'll be hearing from Clifton boss Luke Cosens and first 15 player Marcus Nell a little bit later on around what is set to be a mammoth game this weekend in National 2 West. But let's crack on with the main show now in round 24. And as always, we'll start in the third tier with National 1. So National 1 then, and straight into the race for top spot, where leaders Richmond are closing in on the title. Their round 23 50-26 victory away at 10th place Sedgley Park extended their unbeaten run to 7 matches, but more importantly, they come into April 10 points clear at the summit after nearest challengers Rotherham Titans lost 30-19 away at a rejuvenated Rams a couple of weeks ago. It was much more like it from Rams at Old Bath Road, but their victory dented Rotherham's title dreams, and 2 defeats from their last 3 games for Rotherham leaves them needing Richmond to stumble in the remaining 3 games of this season. And remember, Rotherham, who have had a season to remember, whatever happens over the course of April, they do host Richmond next weekend, but the title could be decided before then, which we'll come on to in a short while. At third place, Roslyn Park are still in with a shout of the title after a brilliant second half showing at Plymouth Albion in round 23 saw them secure a 30-24 win at Brickfields and a 10th victory from their last 11 games. They are still 10 points behind Richmond, but they are mathematically in the hunt still. While at the other end of the standings, it is getting very tense, particularly between Esher and Leicester Lions in terms of the relegation scrap. The Lions are now just 3 points behind 12th placed Esher as 3 tries in the final quarter at home against Sale FC last time out secured 2 bonus points in a 37-31 defeat. And as for Esher, they collected a try bonus point in their 52-28 loss at Bishop Stortford, meaning the E's have now lost 6 in a row, with the final month of the season now upon us. And just above Leicester Lions and Esher are Sedgley Park and Dings Crusaders, who are almost there in terms of confirming their safety. And incidentally, 11th place Dings do host Leicester Lions at Shaftesbury Park in round 24. The Lions did beat Dings 22-15 at the start of December, and with back-to-back games at home to come to end the season for Leicester Lions, collecting points in Bristol would only bolster their survival bid. So an opportunity this weekend for Leicester Lions. As for Esher, they are back at home to face 8th placed Birmingham Moseley. Esher haven't tasted victory in their own backyard since January, but they did beat Birmingham Moseley in the reverse fixture 31-24 thanks to Conor Ganley's late heroic. So Peter Winterbottom's side would love a repeat of that outcome this weekend. Bringing it back to the title race, where on Friday night, leaders Richmond host 4th place Rams under the lights at the Richmond Athletic Ground. Now, Richmond can be crowned champions this weekend if they better the results of both Rotherham Titans and Roslyn Park. Of course, Rob Powell's side will be targeting the full 5 points, and if they were to achieve that on Friday night against Rams, it would put the pressure onto Rotherham Titans on Saturday, who are once again on their travels at 5th placed Blackheath. Now, club are ending James Shanahan's tenure very strongly indeed, as round 23's 46-23 win at Dings Crusaders was a 3rd victory on the spin for Blackheath. And remember, Rotherham have lost their last 2 away games, so what can they conjure up on Saturday afternoon in the knowledge of what Richmond may or may not have done on Friday night? So an intriguing subplot awaits this weekend. As for Roslyn Park, if neighbours Richmond do get a bonus point win against Rams on Friday evening, regardless of what they do in their home meeting with Sedgley Park, Roslyn Park wouldn't be able to win the league. But in fairness, Kieran Power's side are probably just living in the moment right now and will be aiming to continue what has been a really strong season for them. Elsewhere, already relegated, Darlington Moden Park hosts 6th place Plymouth Albion. DMP recently announced that coaching duo Gary Law and Joe Kane will stand down from their current roles at the end of the season and will be replaced by John Newton and Danny Brown as they look to rebuild in National 2 next season. But the North East outfit will be keen to try and end a difficult term with some positives. And lastly, Sale FC, who won 7 of their last 9 games, they are back at Hayward Road to face a Bishop Stortford side who might actually be eyeing Sale's spot in the top half. Tom Coleman's side fulfilled their game in hand last week, and a 31-29 win over Birmingham Moseley was a 3rd victory in a row for Stortford, leaving them 6 points behind Sale ahead of this Saturday's meeting. A busy week in National 2 to come, so let's kick off in National 2 North with what is turning out to be a very intense battle to avoid the bottom 2. So let's actually begin by showing you how the bottom half of the table looks in this division, in particular the bottom four sides who are separated by just 6 points. Now, Harrogate and Hull are in the danger zone at the moment, with Hull dropping to the foot of the table in round 23 following their 29-21 defeat at home to Sheffield Tigers. 4 defeats in a row now for Mike Kamanga's side, who have failed to pick up any points in that period, whilst those around them have been able to collect points, including Harrogate, who have won 3 of their last 5 games, including an excellent 24-17 away victory at local rivals Otley last time out. But Martin Wood and Dan Scarborough's side do remain in the bottom 2, because table rivals Billingham, who you can see in 11th place, have won their last 3 games, including a 29-23 success over Chester in round 23, with Joe Ross sealing the deal for the North East side 7 minutes from time. So both Billingham and Harrogate are coming into form when they need it most, while 12th place Preston Grasshoppers have been sucked into this relegation fight. Hoppers suffered a 40-18 defeat to second place Sheffield last time out, which was a 5th successive loss for the Lancashire club, and it leaves them hovering precariously above the bottom 2, and we'll come on to the top half and the title race a little bit later on, but we're going to stick with the relegation scrap for now, because the bottom 2 actually face one another in round 24, with Harrogate hosting Hull, and Harrogate are our first feature club of the week on the National League Rugby preview show. Now, the Yorkshire outfit made an immediate return to this level after relegation in 2022-23, but despite currently having won the same number of games this season as they did when they went down 2 years ago, the ability of Harrogate to scoop up bonus points has been crucial in bolstering their survival hopes this time around. The Aces have picked up a staggering 23 bonus points, which is the highest in National 2 North, and they have religiously secured points at home this season as well. And with Harrogate hosting Hull this weekend, they'll be hoping for exactly the same at the Apollo Capsule Stadium.
No, we're all pretty excited about the weekend ahead. It's games like this that really help you test where the squad's at. We've had an interesting season, to say the least, and massive game at the weekend. You know, we're trying to get the messaging right really for the weekend. Clearly, you know, I think that the squad's where it needs to be. We're kind of improving all the time. We're pretty confident, but getting the squad in the right frame of mind for this one is pretty key. We're all steering in the same direction. We've been working hard actually on theming, which I know a lot of that goes on the Premiership, etc. We brought quite a bit in of theming just before Christmas, then lead through Christmas into now. We've had a number of quite comical themes that seem to have kind of hit point. Actually, they're quite on point, particularly with the last run of games. So trying to take a bit of trying to ensure the mental side of it's correct in numerous different ways. Try and keep things pretty basic actually, and on the field, but in terms of off the field, we're trying to just create a bit of an edge in different ways week in, week out.
Are you able to shed any light on those different edges, Dan? We spoke to Paul Gustard actually at the start of the season, and he was down in Camborne, and he gave us a little bit of an insight to some of the stuff he used to do at Saracens. I'm not sure that's very similar to what you guys have been doing at Harrogate, where you've been bringing people in or visualizing.
Yeah, it is. Things. Yeah, we've. I mean, to be honest, I mean, I used to play with Paul Gustard. I've coached under him and Alex Sanderson. You know, these sorts of blokes are people that have fueled a lot of this. You know, alongside Pete Taylor, who worked with him, Martin. Well, you know, we've all had ideas in and around things to do to keep it fresh. And to be honest, it's been a challenge week on, week out for us anyway. So I think taking the mind off the main thing and putting it onto. I mean, an example might be, post Christmas we had dry January. Which wasn't about drinking alcohol, it was about kicking habits on the field. We had too many penalties. We were trying to, stop high tackles, make sure we're on site, and all those kind of things was an interesting theme. And all I can say really is I suppose the theme since then have been around boxing. So
no further comment, Dan, no.
We were on the ropes at one point. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, yeah. You're not bringing in. I think Paul said he brought in a wolf one time to Saracens or something like that.
He
Right, so
did, yeah.
you're
The
not
wolf
you're
pack.
not bringing any of the Yorkshire wildlife into Harrogate at
No, no,
all.
no, no, no. I've got enough characters, enough lads potentially who will do a similar job as a wolf, I think. So, yeah, no, we're not putting anything in like that. But no, we've been quite creative. We've had a bit of a laugh along the way, and the lads have bought into a lot of that. And it kind of showed we've been able to kind of, I suppose, section off each part of the season, and now obviously we're kind of in that last section, and Otley took full force. I think when we went to their place, we really hit them with probably something they didn't expect. So it's good, and the biggest thing we know is that the game, the season is in our control, and that's all you can ask for. Whether we get it right, whether we get it wrong, we've always kind of we've not panicked. We've not had, dare I say it, too many crisis meetings or whatever you want to call them these days. We've tried to stay on task. We've tried to keep improving the players. So we've not got too carried away with the moving picture in general. Just tried to stick to the things that count and the things that are going to make a difference on the weekend.
And does that, Dan, as well as kind of the togetherness and the themes you've just talked about there, has that been key characteristics this season for Harrogate? Because I was doing a bit of research for ahead of this, and if you look like the last time Harrogate were in National Two North, I think you picked up the same amount of wins that you're on now in five, but on that occasion it was 8 bonus points. You picked up 23 bonus points this year. So is it always that ability to go, no matter what happens, we're going to stick together, stay in the fight, and that's possibly reaping its rewards this time around?
Yeah, just the 23 bonus points. Yeah, it's been indicative of our season. We've not quite got over the line. We're hoping this would happen earlier. That we've got over the line, and I think more than ever, the win against Otley was massive for us. That the way we actually probably managed the game the best I've seen for the first 17 minutes. Dare I say it? We got an unlucky yellow card. We had two tries scored against us at that point, and then moving beyond that, we got back to controlling the game very well. And it was one of those wins where we had to really dig in, we had to fight. Otley were coming at us pretty hard at the end, and that kind of way of winning and the way in which we did it, the mentality we went about it, the physicality we showed, the stickability, the resilience, whatever you want to call it. That's the sort of thing for me that builds teams. And yes, we're very late in the season. But we're not just building for this year. No matter what happens, there's a building process now. Looking forward, and there's people in the club now who really want to kind of bring things together and find solutions all over the park. So for us to stay up is pretty key. If we don't, it's not a massive problem. If we go down, we go down, and we hopefully keep and retain as many players as we can, and we kick on again next year. So in some ways, there's no big pressure on us. The
Okay.
pressure we put on now is just as human beings, competitive individuals who want to stay up and stay in the fight and be probably where Harrogate should be.
Yeah, and you mentioned before, Dan, it was quite key that you said you're kind of still in control of your own destiny. Obviously, 3 games left, 2 of them at home, but I don't think you could pick 2 bigger games at home with obviously Hull this weekend and Billingham on the final day. And I know we're not looking too far ahead at the moment, but is it quite a confident situation for you guys to be in and going, look, we're not looking at results elsewhere. We're not relying on somebody doing us a favour. Right now, it's all about us, and it has to be all about us for 80 minutes on Saturday to begin with.
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, what a position to be in. We play Hull, who are 5 points below us. We play Billingham, who are 1 point above us. We know if we win those 2 games, we stay up. And like say if we don't do it, it's on us. We're not relying on other results particularly. We lose this weekend, we are relying on other results, but we are literally looking at this weekend. We've got our little theme. We're firing into it. And once the weekend's over, we reassess and we go again. But a win this weekend will take a great deal of pressure off, dare I say it. So if we can, rally around, get some of the supporters that we've got around us to get down. Anybody wants to watch a decent game of rugby and a bit of a crunch, it'd be very interesting. Play against my old friend Mr. Umanga and his mob coming across from Hull. It'll be a good one. It'll be a good one.
No attacks with Mike this week at all. Dan, is it strictly just handshakes before the weekend, and after the match,
Yeah,
you'll
yeah, well,
chat in the clubhouse?
absolutely. Yeah, we get on really well. I mean, I see him around the circuit quite regularly. I'll have a bit of a growl at him pre-game. He'll growl back at me, and then we'll get on with it. But no, it is what it is. It's over to the boys now.
Yeah.
We've prepared, or we will prepare the Harrogate boys to go out there and do the best they can, make game day the best day, all that kind of stuff. I'm sure he'll be doing exactly the same thing, and then it's over to them. They've then got to manage the game, and hopefully, we've seen them start to manage games a little bit better. That's the key. In this league, you need to be able to manage a game in order to get the win. So that'll be the deciding factor. Whether we start to overplay, whether we get it right. Whether we control the right areas, play in the right areas. The same old cliches that everybody uses. We get those bits right. I've no doubt we'll come out on top.
So big thanks to Harrogate for their time this week ahead of what is set to be a big old month for the club, which also includes a final day meeting with table rivals Billingham at the Apollo Capital Stadium. So how much could be riding on that game come the end of April? But what we can guarantee is expect more twists and turns in this relegation fight between now and then. But how many more twists and turns can we expect in terms of the title race? Because as you can see, Leeds Tykes are in the box seat, 9 points clear of Sheffield after they recorded a 14th win in a row following round 23's 35-15 victory over fourth placed Fylde. Pete Seaborn and Pete Lucock's side are on the edge of something special after two quite simply stunning campaigns in National 2 North, and promotion is now within touching distance for the Tykes, who have lost just once all season. To be in this position feels quite apt from a Leeds Tykes perspective, because they are also celebrating their 20th anniversary of their historic Power Gen Cup victory over Bath this week. But in terms of the here and now, title rival Sheffield won't be throwing the towel in just yet, as Anthony Poser's side resume their challenge away at third place Lim on Saturday, as you can see in the middle of our fixture list. But there is a chance that Leeds can be crowned champions on Saturday if Sheffield fail to win in Cheshire and the Tykes gain a positive outcome away at Sheffield City rivals Sheffield Tigers, who after 3 wins from their last 4 matches are all but safe from the drop. So there is an equation where Leeds Tykes could be crowned champions if Sheffield slip up against Lim. So keep your eyes on that if that does occur. But turning our attention back to the relegation scrap, where, as we've highlighted, Harrogate and Hull collide at the Apollo Capital Stadium, while 12th place Preston Grasshoppers are on the road at 8th placed Hull Ionians, seeking a first victory in almost 2 months. And in terms of Billingham, they'll be in a buoyant and focused mood when they take the trip to 4th place Fylde following their 3 straight wins. The North East side did beat third place Lim in their last away game, but for Fylde, despite their problems on their own travels, they have won their last 3 matches at Woodlands and will want to nail down a top 4 finish. And this should be an interesting battle in Lancashire. Elsewhere, 10th placed Otley, who sits 7 points clear of the bottom 2, they'll be looking to respond to back-to-back defeats when they visit 6th placed Tynedale, who lost 33-28 at home to Hull Ionians last time out. And finally, back to the top of the list, where an informed Wharfdale, who won 4 of their last 5 games following their 44-27 win over Lim in round 23, they visit 7th place Chester. Let's bring you up to speed with National 2 West. And for those who follow this league in particular, you'll know there is a huge game coming up on Saturday with a title showdown between Clifton and Camborne at Station Road. 1 point separates second place Clifton and league leaders Camborne after both secured bonus point victories in round 23. Camborne returned to winning ways with an efficient 26-14 victory over 4th place Cinderford, while 2 tries in the final 8 minutes saw Clifton defeat Hornets 36-24 away from home. So it all means we are set for a mouth-watering contest in Bristol on Saturday afternoon, with Clifton hosting Camborne. And of course, Camborne are in pole position at the moment, but Clifton come into this one having won their last 6 games, and they've actually lost just 1 of their last 18 matches at Station Road. So many ingredients going into this one as a National 2 West title race comes to the boil. So ahead of this weekend, and with Clifton being the home side, we caught up with head coach Luke Cousins and inside centre Marcus Nell. So something a little bit different to begin this week, because it doesn't feel like any normal week with such a big game on the horizon in National 2 West, with Clifton hosting Camborne this weekend. And as you can see, joining me this week are Clifton's Luke Cousins and Marcus Nell on the National League Rugby preview show. And Luke, just to begin with, I said there, it doesn't feel like a normal week, and rarely at this time of the season it is a normal week when you're at the sharp end of things. So just give us the Clifton perspective. How are you lads feeling as we speak on Tuesday night?
Well, like I say, there's a lot of excitement. We've obviously got to get selection out of the way at some point, so there'll be a bit of disappointment. But like I said to some of the boys, this is a big game. If the result goes our way, guess what? There's a bigger game next week. But if that goes our way, there's a bigger game the week after. So, but like I said, we bought into a one club philosophy all year. So, boys have done their part. We can only pick 20. So, the 20 on the field are going to work for everyone.
I think there's a good sense of confidence within the group, doing a lot of things that we've worked on for the last couple of years, and obviously we've strengthened it this season, and kind of feeling in a really good space going into the weekend, and I guess just trying to frame it around us and the types of things that we can do to showcase our brand of rugby.
And you talk about kind of confidence there, Marcus. And when we spoke to Luke and Matt at the start of January, one of the things they both touched on was how difficult it is to be really consistent in National 2 West. But the form you've shown this season, I think it's kind of just one defeat since October, 17 wins from the last 18. How have you been able to manage that? And I guess has confidence grown as each week's passed by and as the tests keep coming?
I think as a group of players, we've probably developed organically and through people coming into the club, a group of leaders and I guess senior players, and those people have been able to, I guess, manage the group and kind of take people along with them. So a lot of the time during sessions, you see players having conversations amongst themselves. Cuz a lot of the time has to try bring us back, but it's all of us trying to have conversations about how we can develop each other and be in a good space as a group.
Yeah, we've got structure, but I want blokes to go out and play and express themselves. So everything I give to them is for them to make the decision. So they can choose how they want to play. Can I present them with enough in training to present all the different scenarios they might come up against? It's tough, but end of the day, they're on the park. If you can stand back and not do much, you're in a good place.
And Luke, has that been maybe the most pleasing thing, if you want to just narrow things down to the kind of last 6-7 weeks or so, where you have strung this brilliant run of wins together? You've been able to put the pressure on Camborne as much as you can, because from an outsider looking in, it seems like you've had to adapt, find different solutions to win different games, whether it's Macclesfield away or scoring 10 tries at home to Loughborough. Have we seen that your team adapt to different scenarios, as you just touched on there?
Yeah, well, like I say, Macclesfield away was on paper, we were the favourites, but, it was a wet, cold winter's day and they made it damn difficult for us. And we probably didn't find the solution until about the 60th minute. And then, we cranked up through the gears and saw that away. And then likewise last week, Hornets, always difficult. They're a very difficult team down there. It's never easy. And if you traditionally look at the last few years, the teams that have won the league have struggled down in their place. So to come through that was a lot of character, and they put us under pressure, and the lads pulled through. So under pressure, so it was a good sign.
Yeah, and has that been maybe a little bit of a difference this year, Marcus, to maybe Clifton sides over the last 3-4 years or so? I know you've been a real ever present in the team that have constantly finished towards the top of the division, whether that's National 2 West, National 2 South. So what kind of steps have been taken for Clifton to take the next step this season, and potentially maybe the biggest step in their club's recent history?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question, and probably this year, like Cuz said, that idea of like one club, but what that's done is it's meant that we've had probably a bit more depth, and as a result, we can make changes, and it seems to be seamless. and people can contribute in a really positive way to the group, whether they've been in for a week or out for a week. So I think that's probably one of the things that's put us in a good space. And I think the way that we've developed in terms of some of those tougher games, I think historically we generally may have folded in some of those situations, and historically teams have put big scores on us, but we seem to be quite a different outfit this year, where in those tricky situations we do just take a moment and then come back with something else which we think is going to work.
And that must be one of the most impressive things for you, Luke, as well, because I know, Camborne have been pretty much at the top of the table for such a large portion of this season. And no matter whether it's been 10 points, whether it's been 6 points, or whether it's been 1 point, the gap between them and the chasing pack, you've kind of focused on yourselves. You've kept churning out the results. So how important has that mentality for you been to just focus on yourselves? If it's not going right, take a minute and then you'll be able to work out a situation.
Yeah, like I say, we've got the two best teams on Saturday, consistency-wise. So we got a lot of respect for Camborne, and in a way, us chasing them has driven us on to be able to play the way we are playing. And I expect they'll say the same, vice versa. At this time of year, it's rare nowadays to get a game like this. So, you know what I mean? We don't know what's going to happen Saturday. Both teams are very capable of winning the game. It's who turns up and does the business. So that's what's, as a neutral and as for National League Rugby, it's why it's a great spectacle coming on Saturday. I want the boys to go play Saturday and come off the field, no matter the result, actually going, well, we put the best version of us, and if they play really well and they can beat that, then we can take it on the chin, But I don't want us to go out there and not produce. So that's probably the main pressure, not really the result, who wins, who goes up. Just let's put on a performance, both sides, and let's get the man in the middle, let the game flow. And, all these people that don't usually come to the rugby grounds, they're going to be here Saturday and, they might want to come back, God forbid.
And Marcus, Luke kind of said there that, you've got to kind of focus on yourselves this weekend. I know you only played Camborne, I think it's exactly 2 months ago, where you went up to their place for the rearranged fixture. So how much can you guys as players take from that experience of playing them only 2 months ago into this game, even though we are framing it as such a kind of standalone game and a special game in the season?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because probably teams don't drift away too much from what they typically do week on week. So I guess there's definitely going to be some consistency in what they do. I do also think that there's an inevitability that in a game like this, teams tend to think of something outside the box. So I guess this weekend we've probably also got to be willing to expect the unexpected. It's not going to be predictable Camborne. They're probably going to throw something different at us. So we've got to stay alert to that as well.
And on the occasion, Marcus, I saw kind of Luke's message in the Clifton WhatsApp the other week saying, this is the biggest home game for certainly in recent years. So when you do see words or hear words like that, Marcus, and you see the publicity that the club are putting out on social media, what kind of emotions stir within the playing group? Does it kind of add to the excitement that you talked about at the start of our chat?
Yeah, I think it's a hugely emotive week. Like, however you look at it, like Kaz said, you don't often get games like this too often where you get two quality sides going out on a weekend. Looks like it should be half decent weather as well. So like a day like that, good game of rugby, I think it just has to be seen as exciting. Inevitably, thoughts come into the equation in terms of what it holds. But I think just generally, boys are excited, and that's probably been, I guess, our overrunning emotion throughout the season is excitement about every week. We're in a really exciting position this year to do something, and I think having people come down, being able to play an exciting brand of rugby should be the type of thing that makes people want to get involved with the club, whether that's playing, supporting, or volunteering in some sort of way. And hopefully what we see this weekend is a real coming together of the rugby community in and around Bristol.
So big thanks to both Luke and Marcus for their time earlier in the week. The anticipation and the excitement building towards Saturday, and a Clifton win would absolutely set us up for a fascinating conclusion to the season. But a Camborne victory at Station Road would represent a huge step towards a first ever promotion to National 1 for the Cherry and White, and they could also take a step towards a second promotion in 3 seasons. So much on the line on Saturday afternoon. And Clifton's last defeat, incidentally, came against Camborne at the start of February, a 31-24 loss against their title rivals on that occasion. But what will happen this time around? It's such a big game on Saturday, so we wanted to give it the coverage that it deserves. So get yourself down to Station Road if you're in and around the Bristol area. It's a 2:30 kickoff on Saturday for what is set to be a massive game in the National 2 West season. And the reason potentially we find ourselves in this scenario now is because 7th place Luctonians actually beat Camborne 25-17 back in round 22, and that allowed Clifton to close the gap to a single point to Camborne. And conveniently, Luctonians are our second feature club of the week on the National League Rugby preview show. So they've had a hand in potentially this title race in terms of setting up such a big game on Saturday. But over the last couple of seasons, Luctonians have been in those top positions in National 2 West. Just last season, they were very much in the title race for large portions of the campaign before Dings Crusaders swooped in to claim promotion. And the season before that, they actually finished in 4th place. But this year, that progression that Luctonians like to target each and every season hasn't really followed suit, with Ryan Watkins' side currently sitting 7th in the standings after what has been a pretty mixed campaign for the men from Mortimer Park. But back-to-back victories to end March, which included that win against Camborne and a 38-27 success away at Bourneville, has given Luctonians a bit of a springboard to end this campaign strongly. So with the final month of the season beginning at the weekend, we caught up with Luctonians boss Ryan Watkins and first 15 skipper Ben Link as they prepare for their round 24 meeting with Exeter University. Let's start with you, Ryan, if you don't mind. And if you can believe it or not, April is already here and there's only 3 games left to go in this National 2 West campaign. But kind of from a Luctonians perspective, how do you kind of assess the season for you guys this year?
It's been a little frustrating. Last year we obviously did really well and, nearly clinched promotion. But we've had a few obstacles, let's say, this year to deal with that we were quite fortunate last year. We didn't get a few more injuries and players getting a few more cards and those sort of things we've had to contend with. And, a few boys moved on, some onto, bigger and better things, some retired and things like that. So, and probably the transition of some of those players into key positions has took a bit of time. So, it's been an eventful year and, it's been a little bit up and down.
Yeah, and would you go along with that kind of sentiment, Ben? Because outsiders looking in will see Luctonians certainly over the last couple of years of finishing in a really strong 4th place, as Ryan touched on there. You were in the title picture for so long last season, but it's easy for someone from the outside to look in and go, wow, there's been a massive drop off, but there has been changes. This is a kind of a new squad which is developing, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. We've had a bit of influx at the seconds this year, a couple of lads moving on. So obviously it takes time to gel and systems of play and stuff like that to make it work. We started pretty well, but had a bit of a blip off. It takes a little bit of time to recover. We're quite an honest bunch, and we sat down. We've lost more games than we sort of wanted to this year. We've addressed a few problems, and we're trying to do it towards the end of the season now. Is to kick on and really kickstart our season next year. And it starts now.
Yeah, I think we obviously beat Camborne a couple of weeks ago, and that was almost as frustrating as it was brilliant, because it's proved we can be up there with anybody and turn the best guys over. And we also had a decent win against Bourneville last week, so I do feel that we're on the right track again. I think from a coaching point of view, we try to strip things back a little bit down to basics, concentrate on just getting fit again, getting skills right, and getting a bit of grit about our game, because I think that did go missing, for a few weeks. So, no, I think that, we're on the right path to making moves again, coming back. And I think we're looking at eyeing up 3 wins before the end of the season, 3 winnable games for us. And I think with the last couple of games, we've shown to have a bit of form about us again, and we want to finish on a high.
Yeah, because I was going to come on to that, Ryan, because I've seen kind of some of the clips on Luctonian social media in some of the post-match interviews, and when you were going through that very tricky run towards that Camborne game, you could tell you were frustrated, deflated, you wanted to see things turn around. So how pleasing has those last 2 victories been? Of course, beating the league lead is a massive, massive achievement. I think you kind of described it as the performance of the season for you guys, but how pleasing have the last 2 weeks been to give yourselves this chance of ending the season really, really strongly?
There's always a sense of relief when you go for a bad patch and then you get a win, back. And I think some of it's got to go to the players as well. Like they just made their mind up that they were going to beat Camborne, and you could sense on the Tuesday night and the Thursday and the Saturday. So I think that's the biggest lesson for them almost as players, is like they can drive this as much as the coaching team can, and if not more. They've got all the tools and abilities that they need to go and beat anybody in this league. The challenge is being able to back it up every single week. It's a tough league. There's a lot of quality size in this league this year. With the Nat 1 teams coming down, Camborne going well, and a few other teams have picked form up and things like that. So, yeah, it's not been easy, but we've proved we can do it. So, can we unlock that? Every single week. That's the challenge.
And how have you found it as a player, Ben, with these new challenges? Because as I said before, you've been in these leagues for a while, you've been around Luctonians for a while, but it does seem that National League Rugby gets even more competitive. And I guess as a player, you've got to continuously look to try and up your game where possible.
Yeah. Well, being a captain this year in squad, and we're in a bit of a dip of form, we motivate the lads a little bit. But since we sort of sat down and addressed a few problems, it's been a lot easier. Lads have got a bit of a buzz about them. The buzz is back, the spark's back, and it's been a good place to be.
And just looking at kind of the strength of the league with you, Ryan, just quickly, as you mentioned it before, we've had chats in the past where you've always said, Luctonians want to build on wherever they finished the year before, and you've done that incredibly well in recent times. But is that also added to the challenge this year, that the level of competition has continued to go up?
I think so, yeah. And, we did probably have a lot of things go our way last year. The stars aligned a little bit for us as well. But no, like I said, it's been a frustrating year. I think we need to take that away, and the boys themselves, again, the players need to really have the bit about the teeth. They need to hit the ground hard in pre-season and go after every single week. They're more than capable of doing that. I think, as I've already said, that is the challenge, though. Is not just getting yourselves up for the big games. The top 4 sides that you really want to beat. It's being able to put that performance in and put away the bottom end sides as well. So therefore, we need to have a level of concentration and an accuracy in our game that can sort of put the lower sides away. But at the minute, we're sort of bang in the middle. So yeah, we sort of need to address a few things. And I think if we can get our games right, we've got 2 home games and 1 away game. We're in hopefully decent form again now. I think let's go and get 15 points on the board and see where that gets us.
So big thanks to both Ryan and Ben for their time on Tuesday evening. As we say, looking to end the season how they started it, with 5 straight wins, and they'll be targeting a 3rd win in a row this weekend to take them into the final couple of games of this season. As we said, Luctonians do host Exeter University on Saturday, and Exeter themselves are on the cusp of safety in National 2 West. So just to bring up the bottom half of the table now, where, as you can see, Exeter University are 13 points clear of the danger zone, while 12th place Macclesfield are also in a similar boat. The Cheshire club scored 4 tries in the final half an hour away at 3rd place Taunton in round 23 to earn 2 bonus points in a 38 33 defeats, which leaves them 11 clear of the bottom two with 15 points left to play for. So it means time is running out for bottom two sides, Bourneville and Devonport Services, with the latter resigned to relegation. Boss Ben Russell more or less telling the local press after their 47-45 defeat to Loughborough Students last time out, and he also expressed that their target now is to not finish bottom of the division, and both Bourneville and Devonport Services could have their fate sealed this weekend, but more on that shortly. And just a brief reminder of the state of play at the top. As we said, Camborne and Clifton separated by that 1 point ahead of Saturday's mega clash at Station Road, while the race is on for a top four finish with 6 points separating Cinderford and actually ninth placed Hinckley, who aren't on this page. So positions to play for across the final three games, and the first block of fixtures in April looks a little bit like this, and we'll start with the bottom two, with Bourneville travelling to Cinderford. The Chocos must gain a minimum of 1 point from their trip to Dockham Road to avoid the drop this weekend. That is something they haven't achieved on the road since November. So what can Alex Grove and his side conjure up on Saturday? As for Devonport Services, they are at home to Hornets, but no anything less than a bonus point victory would see them go back down to level 5. The fully amateur club have given this season a real go, but their time in National 2 West could be up on Saturday. Just scanning towards the bottom of the list, where a bonus point victory for Macclesfield at home to 5th placed and an informed Loughborough Students would guarantee their safety in National 2, and that safety would also be confirmed if Bourneville and Devonport failed to hit their objectives. But either way, it would be some achievement for Mac to stay up in National 2 West. And Exeter, who we've mentioned, face Luctonians this weekend. 2 league points or more for them would rubber stamp another season in National League Rugby for Gareth Elliott's troops. So much to play for towards the bottom of the table this weekend. Elsewhere, we've of course highlighted Clifton versus Camborne, so we'll touch on Hinckley versus Old Redcliffians and Redruth versus Taunton. Hinckley, who've won 4 in a row now, are eyeing up a spot in the top half, while 10th place Old Redcliffians will be targeting 3 wins on the spin for the first time this season. And as for Redruth, success defeats against Macclesfield and Hinckley respectively have seen them drop into the bottom half, but they are only 5 points off 4th as they prepare to entertain Taunton Titans. And lastly, International 2 East, where there has been so much talk around the title race and the fight to stay in the 4th tier. But we'll start with what has been a big couple of weeks in terms of the promotion battle for league leaders, Tunbridge Judians. Now, cast your mind back 3 weeks or so, where TJs were just a single point clear at the summit, but round 23's comeback 41-34 victory over Bury St Edmunds, combined with their game in hand, which took place last week against Guernsey Raiders, has seen Seb Sherwood and Jordan Turner Hall's side move 8 points clear with 3 games to go. A lot was made around their game in hand last week away at Guernsey Raiders, but TJ's delivered a 49-21 victory, which leaves them in pole position for promotion to National 1. A 19th bonus point win from a possible 23 has them in the driving seat, with Dorking and Barnes their nearest challengers. Dorking had put the pressure on following a 4th win in a row in round 23 when they came from behind to beat Guernsey 31-29 away from home, while Barnes' title bid suffered a blow as they agonisingly fell to a 26-24 home defeat against 5th placed Old Albanian. But as they have done for so much of this season, TJs lead the way and have their destiny in their own hands. So that is the top of the table in terms of the title race. Down at the other end, round 23 proved significant in shaping the relegation scrap, as 12th place Havant secured a vital 25-19 victory over 10th placed Oxford Harlequins. It put an end to a run of 8 straight defeats for Havant, and as you can see, it leaves them 12 points clear of the danger zone with 15 points left to play for. Round 23 also saw the battle of the bottom two, which went the way of Worthing, as Ed Hartley's late penalty confirmed a 32-24 win over Colchester. But with Havant's victory, it still leaves Worthing with work to do, as they are 14 points behind Havant, while the bonus points in defeat for Colchester leaves them 12 points behind. So it is a big round 24 for those sides, as well as for league leaders Tunbridge Julians, who take their title bid to 7th placed Henley Hawks. And Henley are our final feature club of the week on the National League Rugby preview show. Now, the Hawks began this term with a squad which is still a little bit fresh to National 2 East, and that may explain why they do sit in mid-table at this stage in the season. But this is a club which is ambitious and does want to start pushing for those top spots again. And at times this season, we have seen what this Henley squad is capable of. They've been away from home and beaten 2nd place Dorking. They beat 5th placed Old Albanian at home right at the very start of the season. They've also seen off 4th place Canterbury at Dry Lees this season. So have they got another performance or two in their locker like that as they look to end the season strongly? And ahead of their clash with league leaders Tunbridge Julians this weekend, we caught up with Henley Hawks Director of Rugby, Luke Allen. And Luke, just as we said before we hit record, really, it's obviously the start of April already, if we can believe it or not, with just 3 games to go in the campaign. So how do you kind of sum up the progression of Henley Hawks during the 2024-25 season?
Yeah, again, it can be looked at, various ways, really. Last year we finished 4th, and that was a really good, strong finish for us as a club. We looked to sort of progress on this year, and I think obviously with the league being quite open, with not people coming down and stuff like this from National 1, we thought, it's going to be very competitive. A lot of teams are putting their hat in the mix to say we're going to get promoted this year. And you know what? Obviously, on reflection from last year, a lot of teams have beaten each other, and it's similar this year with a few. Obviously TJs and Dorking are doing a good job at the top. With TJs obviously been quite dominant. So this year itself, I think for us has been quite a frustrating one at times. We've been there or thereabouts at the top. We've beaten the top teams, apart from TJs. We've got them this weekend, which will be interesting. It's just about consistency, and I think sometimes we're our own worst enemy. A lot of our games are being decided within 7 points. And that's quite frustrating. It's quite hard to pick up yourselves after these sort of narrow losses at times. But again, on reflection, this season as well, we had quite a turnover of senior players, we call it, boys retiring, 1 or 2 moving on. We had a lot of them retiring from obviously a huge amount of service, which is great. We had some young players to step up, and I think sometimes you can't underestimate the power of just having a year in a league, especially at National 2 level. These boys are coming from college, academy programs, some of them, and it's a different type of rugby. It's traditional. It's some would call it boring. It's just doing the basic things well every week. So I think we've had a few shortcomings there where we haven't quite learned our lessons or managed games of how we should do to seal them off. But hey, that's how it is. And one good thing is that when we finish the season, we've had a squad of players now who've got National 2 experience under their belt, and we can kick on. So yeah, last 3 games we're here to upset the party, see what we can do, and we'll go from there, really. We're not the finished article. We are a club that's etched in history. We've got a lot of heritage to our name. It's about what does the new generation look like, and what they're going to bring, and what type of rugby do we want them to sort of carry the torch with going on. And I think it's understanding sometimes that you're not going to have the season how it goes. If we finish 4th one season, you think, okay, next year we're going to go for top 3. It doesn't always work like that. It's really competitive. So I think the league's looking completely different towards, say 10 years ago. You've got to give the respect to a lot of these sort of smaller teams, so to speak, that are doing some good things. And I think it's not, getting too frustrated, but also understanding, there are learnings to be made, and we'll do that next season, hopefully, you know.
And you mentioned it before, Luke, as well, kind of probably the games this season where you've been able to see the talent that your team do have. I mean, going away to Dorking is not something that happens very often in this league, and winning, which you guys did. You beat Canterbury at home, you beat Old Albanian at home as well, right at the very start of the season. So again, that must give you real confidence that this group of players, yes, they might still be fresh on the outset, but they have got that ability to go up a notch or two when it really matters.
Yeah, well, one thing I think this team have got is a never die attitude. They're resilient. They're tough when they need to be. And I think obviously look back to Canterbury like last week. Realistically, that game was there for the taking for us. We did a really good job, and it's just that game management, that little bit of that nous almost, that top 2 inches that allows you to seal a game off, or get that extra try. I mean, it's not through opportunities. We created opportunities. Then it goes to an overthrow, or it could be like a missed pass, or just a knock on, or just not the right call. And they're the little things that when you need just players to sort of put your foot on it and say, right, okay, what are we doing here? We lack that at crucial times. So it's those little lapses of concentration, I think, that we need to really brush up on, and that just comes with experience. Because again, frustration comes from we are there, we can be there, but it's just having a little bit of that extra that's needed to seal these games off, and that's the difference. I mean, look, next season I'm looking to retain the vast majority of my squad. I'm really proud of those men. They're coming good off the field as well. They seem to get on with each other, which is a really good sign. And I think we just need to now to really recruit, strategically in key areas, and just to make sure we pepper a few players who have some quality, a bit of experience as well as quality to help us get over the line. And again, just be, challenge at the top end of the table, which I know we can do. I'm not going to sit here and say next year we can get promoted. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I want us to be top 4 at least, challenging, and saying every time they play Henley, worried that actually these boys they're here to play. They're here to offer something.
Yeah, absolutely, Luke. And just in terms of you individually, Luke, if I'm right in saying your second season as in the director of rugby role, how have you kind of found that transition, really? I know Henley is a club which is incredibly close to your heart. You have such a strong affiliation with the club. So how have you found kind of the role of director of rugby over the last couple of seasons or so?
You know what, it's funny because I played my rugby at Cinderford. So I come from Cinderford to Henley back in 2013. So I've been in the club a number of years now. Went from forwards coach to obviously with Pete Davis. And when Pete moved on, went to head coach for 5-6 seasons. Then obviously now the director of rugby. So I've seen a gradual change. I've been in a few roles. And I'm enjoying the challenge. I really am. I've gone from being on the ground a lot more on the coaching to more behind the scenes. So I look obviously the 1s, 2s, and the 3s. Looking at making sure the women's program is really firing, because we've got a fantastic group of girls at the club now as well who are doing a great job. I mean, this year our second team got promoted from level 7 to level 6, sorry, which is great news. And obviously our third team went from level 8 to level 7 for next season as well. So they're doing some really good stuff. And the minis and junior section as well is thriving. So it's busy. And I think as you go to the director of rugby role, you've then got to go to the back room, make sure that's all in order. It's having good people around you. It's good people that you can trust as well. That's key, especially in the coaching game. And then the players themselves, just making sure they're happy in the environment. Look, I'm very much a relational person. I like to think the players can come and talk to me about everything, and I sort of pride myself on that as well. And if the player's got a problem, they just come and speak to me, and likewise I'll speak to them. And I make that continue. But yeah, it's busy. It's busy juggling life. I've got a fantastic wife who is very understanding. I think that's the key to a successful DOR, because it's a hell of a lot of time. It's a Monday to Sunday job. It's not, and even though this is not my full-time job, it does require a lot of time. A lot of hours off behind the scenes. So
it feels like an exciting environment, an exciting time to be part of Henley, whether it's this season or looking forward. Yeah. But just to finish off, because I know you're tight for time, just looking ahead to the final 3 games of the season, and you touched on it right at the very start of our chat. Tunbridge Julians coming to your place on Saturday afternoon. They've been the league leaders for a fair chunk of this season. They did hit a couple of bumps in the road at the start of March, but responded very well indeed to kind of lead the destiny in their hands a little bit. They'll have the tails up coming to your place on Saturday. So what do you expect the challenge to be at Dryleys?
Yeah, and rightly so. They've done some great stuff this year. Really good, talented bunch of boys. Their coaches and management team, some good lads there as well that I know well. Had some really good discussions with them when they come over to our place, and vice versa. We expect them to be physical up front. We expect them to be, efficient out wide. Got some pace on the wings. And it's not going to be an easy day at the office. But what we're looking to do is really just be good at what we can do. Okay, so in not playing silly in our areas, close to our lines, making sure we're really efficient in our game model that we want to play is executed well. Really putting a bit of pressure on our game leaders as well to step up and just manage the boys. And yeah, it's just really let's take it to them really. So that's the attitude this weekend. It's not a case of we're going to just turn up and just hopefully it goes well. It's actually we're there to play, we're there to take a scalp, and that's what we're looking for. So just to be abrasive and confident in ourselves. You know what I mean? I mean, you look between so where we are at 7th to say 4th, 5th, 4th. There's only like a few points in it. So if we can get like maximum points out of these last 3 games, then we put ourselves into a position where we can hold our heads high and say, look, do you know what? We've had a few ups and downs, but we finished on our terms, and I think that's really important.
So a big thanks to Luke for taking the time out to speak to us ahead of Henley's meeting with Tunbridge Julians this weekend. It sounds like exciting times to come for the Hawks over the next couple of years, but right here, right now, they're aiming for a 4th straight victory at home. But there is a scenario where Tunbridge Julians can be crowned champions this weekend if they are able to claim a bonus point victory at Dryleys and Dorking fail to win in round 24, then the title will be heading to Tunbridge Julians. But can Henley spoil the party, as Luke said, and ruffle the feathers of Tunbridge Julians on Saturday afternoon, or will TJ's march on? We'll have to wait and see. Well, Dorking and Barnes will be hoping Henley can do something to halt TJ's. This title race is to spring into life once again, with Barnes visiting 9th place Bury St Edmunds this weekend, while Dorking host a Havant side who need just 3 league points from their final 3 games to guarantee their safety in National 2 East. Of course, if the bottom 2 sides of Colchester and Worthing both lose in round 24, Havant will be safe, but their table rivals will not be giving up the fight that easily. Colchester actually travelled to Havant in round 25, but first up for them, they must gain a positive outcome at home to Guernsey Raiders, who they did beat 38-36 at Foots Lane at the end of February, while opportunity knocks for Worthing again as they go to 11th placed Sevenoaks, with the hosts needing to match Colchester's result to confirm their safety. So a lot on the line in terms of the top and the bottom of the table in National 2 East this weekend. While elsewhere, Oxford Harlequins, who confirmed their place in National 2 for next season in round 23, following an excellent second half of the campaign, they host Canterbury, while 5th place Old Albanian, who have now won 7 games in a row, they take their excellent recent form to 6th place Westcombe Park, who could leapfrog Oways in the table with a 3rd straight win.